In previous videos, we described a way of defining processes in an organization using a set of process levels or hierarchy, where we would go from the lowest level of detail, task, which would roll into process steps, sub-process, process, and then groups of processes that form capabilities. This construct needs to fit into a context of an organization, and for that I've got this level one that I've termed the architecture of the organization. Now there's many different frameworks and terminologies that exist, and there is no one standard. So if you read books and white papers and go to different websites, you'll see a variety of different ways of describing this level one architecture. I've used that term architecture because I feel it best represents the majority of what I read out in the literature. And typically it consists of several elements. One is an articulation of the strategy of the organization, including things like which customers or clients are we going to focus on and the value proposition that we're going to deliver to them. Then there's also a set of elements which are organized in different ways, but essentially boils down to all the non-IT aspects of the architecture and the IT aspects. So the non-IT, or business, if you will, would consist of things like our design of our governance structure, architecting the organization required in order to execute this strategy, the value streams that we need to have that will deliver this value proposition. Value streams being a chain of processes that need to, ideally, flow in an uninterrupted way to deliver value efficiently and consistently. The design of our financial structure, how we're going to budget, how we have accountability, and so forth. On the IT side, consists of things like application structure, the software we're going to have, how we're going to structure and govern data, and the infrastructure model required, and so forth. These things need to work together, ideally, in alignment and synergistically, so as to deliver on the strategy consistently and effectively. What I find in organizations is that even if you don't deliberately architect something, there is normally a default design that people have in mind, and that is one that's over 100 years old, and it's the functional divisional model, where we will design the structure of our business around functions, HR, finance, operations, sales, marketing, and so forth, and around product or market divisions. Now, those aren't necessarily bad choices, but if those choices either explicitly or implicitly dominate the architecture, there's implications for that. For example, you might find that applications suddenly are non-standard from function to function, from division to division. That might be okay. That might actually lead to some negative consequences, though, because it hurts in the value stream operating across functions and across divisions, because you have different software standards. How data is structured might be affected. Now you have maybe silos of data rather than some data which needs to be shared in a standard way across functions and across divisions, because perhaps our client or customer interacts with us in a way that they are expecting shared data across our organization and one version of the truth of that data. So one thing to watch out for is the siloing effect and how you're architected, and no matter how you structure, there's going to be implications, good and bad, on process and whether or not the process can flow to the customer in a timely way or whether it's hung up and broken. So that's a very brief summary of the 6 typical levels of a process hierarchy.